if I need to spin up a piece of content to go to ChatGPT and say, write me a 1,500 word blog post using this as the title, you're going to get that in about 30 seconds. You could post that, but is it really going to move the needle? Is it going to make an impact? If you are going to go with AI assisted content, take the time to build out a prompt, try to control the narrative as much as you can. I know it might be a little taboo to talk about using AI for content, but it's the world we're living in.
I'm Nicole MacLean, and this is Content Matters, created in partnership with Share Your Genius. This show is your digital partner for filtering the trends and focusing on the content that matters most, creating connection that drives results. Let's cut through the marketing chaos together.
My name's Kyle Whigham. I'm the SEO Manager at Luxury Presence, and I've been with Luxury Presence for 3.5 years. I've been in digital marketing and SEO and content creation for 13 years now.
Well, we're really excited to dive in, especially right now. I know you are going to have a lot of great feedback on content and SEO and the changing nature of SEO, but maybe just help us kind of understand your background and where you're coming from and kind of where some of the insights are coming from. So how do you get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been a journey. So that 13 years ago, was looking for work and sent a text message out to a bunch of buddies. And one guy responded and he said, you can come be an entry level. We'll teach you SEO. And I was like, great, let's do it. What is SEO? What does that mean? I had no idea. Moved to Raleigh, dove right in, started out as an entry level link builder. So a lot of outreach, some content creation, developing relationships with different webmasters.
We'll definitely want to circle back to the link building. I know it's a polarizing topic, I feel like nowadays, on if link building works or not.
There is a lot to unpack there. But this first company that I worked for, I was really fortunate to be surrounded by some brilliant people, some industry leaders that would speak at conferences. And I ended up asking the late Russ Jones, he's kind of who I credit getting me into this. I was like, hey, can I just listen to you talk to clients? And that's how I started learning, and it kind of created this passion. There's always something to learn. There's a new tactic. Google's constantly changing. And now that we're in the age of AI, there's always new tactics, strategies to learn, testing, and that really appealed to me. And so bounced around to a couple different agencies and then got hooked up with Luxury Presence. At the time, I was like, I just want to go back, get in the trenches. I had been in people leadership for a little while. And I was like, I want to go be just a guy and get my hands dirty again. Was really fortunate when I got here to be promoted and move up through the ranks really quickly. I think it was about 6 months before they were like, hey, do you want to manage people? And I was like, you know what? Sure. And got back into it. And so right now I manage our client success part of SEO, who we work with real estate agents at Luxury Presence. We have an onshore team and an offshore team that I'm in charge of, and we cover everything from on-page strategy to off-site strategy. We want our clients to be good partners. And so we'll provide like a playbook on how can you best be a good partner to make sure we're getting maximum ROI throughout your campaign. I've helped here and there with some of the stuff that goes on our corporate site. We just relaunched our website, luxurypresence.com, and that went through a big migration. We added some new content on there, so making sure that everything was buttoned up. But yeah, that's the TLDR version of my career journey.
I know that we probably need to dive into the SEO things, and believe me, I'm sure we will. But it's interesting. It's something I don't think we talk enough about in society, I guess, in corporate world, of that becoming a manager and then stepping back into an IC role. Just curious kind of where your head was there. Like, did people say, oh my gosh, why are you leaving management? Like, that's so weird. You made it. Why are you going back to execution? That
question came up obviously during the interview process of like, we look at your resume and you've led teams, you started a couple departments, why do you want to come back and be an IC? And the short answer was, quite transparently, I felt like I got burned in a couple places, but that's the nature of business and corporate world and business world. But also, at the time, this was in 2021, it was just time for a transition, right? And I missed that, quote unquote, being in the trenches, getting my hands dirty and sharing in, having the relationships with the clients and sharing in the successes that I was able to bring forth to them. Like, that's been the most rewarding part of my career is, I've worked with mom and pop shops, entrepreneurs, Fortune 500 companies, enterprise level clients, and being able to share in the success when they come to you, and like you can have a direct impact on their success. That's a real rewarding part. So at a luxury presence, like I felt like, okay, this is an industry I've dabbled in a little bit on one or two different occasions with different clients at other agencies. But I think this is something that could be really unique, that's your whole focus. You can become not just an expert in holistic SEO, but really drive home local SEO. How can you make content that is focused on a specific audience? And real estate sounds like a broad term, but there's so many different layers that go into it. First time home buyers, vacation homes, luxury. There's more that I'm missing, but those just come off the top of my head. When the opportunity came to move up to management, it was a real, I don't want to say it was a tough decision, but there was real discussion in our household about like, what does this mean? Is this what you want to do? And ultimately it came down to, is this the right fit? Right. And I think there's a little bit of a distinction when you're looking for an IC role or management role. And is this company the right fit? How are they going to allow me to manage people the way I want to manage people? Do I believe in the company values? Those things matter as an IC, but I think more so when you're that manager, you have to be able to exhibit those traits, have that buy-in, and then also rally the folks around you to be able to have the right people in the right places and build that cohesiveness as a team. And I think it's even more important in the remote work environment to be able to do
Absolutely.
something like that. So for me, it was all about fit. It was like LP's a place that was really easy to buy into for me. And I didn't look back. Once I had that opportunity, it was great. I felt like my voice mattered here more than just about anywhere else.
You said something again. There's nothing more that will burn a middle manager than a company that doesn't kind of practice what it preaches. And when you suddenly are a middle manager and you're trying to deal with things that are impacting the engagement and the morale and the ability of your team to do their best work that you can't control because it's a misalignment from the top into how those things come to practice. Like you said, the values, the way you work, do you align with them? It's interesting how much we'll kind of not suffer through, but we'll tolerate as an IC. And then suddenly when you become a manager and you see it being done to other people, that's the straw for a lot of people. And it's why I think middle management is one of the hardest roles.
If you think about it too much, it can wear on you. For me, it all comes back to fit. And that fit is, in that first 6 months, it became very apparent that the executive leadership, senior leadership, wasn't just saying things to say things. They weren't just words on paper, and it really reverberates throughout the company. And so it was easy of like, okay, I align with this. I can turn around and practice with this and run with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you totally that like if it's not a right fit, that we might be having a different conversation today. But it's been nothing but a blessing to be able to lead the folks that I do, and then have the different connections throughout the company. In my role, I'm not just working with our marketing services. I'm now working with our product engineering and design as we try to elevate different products and features within our platform, and to be really looked at as that subject matter expert validates those thoughts that I had 3 years ago.
We're kind of on this topic of just the philosophy of work and how, making sure you're in those values. But one of the things that stood out immediately when I was on your LinkedIn profile is, I believe it's your sub headline or whatever, which, a lot of people will put their title or former ex-Googler, or, something that is kind of self-promoting, if you will. And yours really struck me because it was good enough never is.
Yeah, there's a fun story behind that. So I have been an LSU Tiger fan from the time I was like 10 years old, dating back to Warren Morris's walk-off home run against Miami in 1996. And I remember telling my dad, like, man, it would be great to play there. Like, vivid memory about this. Started going to baseball camps there all the way through my senior year of high school. I think it was 2003. So I during week, every lunch there's a guest speaker. And one of the speakers, I think at the time he was the hitting coach for Samford University, former LSU ball player. I think his name was Jeremy Moore. And he started off with this: good enough never is. Now he obviously related it to sports and baseball and practicing, but that has resonated with me throughout every facet of my life, be it personal, professional, how I parent my children, is this idea of, at the end of the day, if you sit back and like, yeah, I did a good enough job, then it probably wasn't. And that there's probably somebody else out there that is doing something a little bit extra, doing a little bit more, working a little bit harder than you. The idea is like 100%, every single day when I show up, and I'll put this in a work perspective, but 100%, if I'm feeling 50%, 100% of me on that day is greater than if I show up if I'm here 100%, but I only put in 50% effort. So being able to every single day to come in and at the end of the day, look back and say, I got 1% better than I was the day before, and to not sit back and be like, you know what, that was good enough. And so it's a reminder to just always be striving for greatness, whatever that definition means to you.
Yeah, well, there's so many ways you can look at that. And it's funny, I am in, we're all in probably a couple different Slack communities. I saw someone post this quote from Lauren Michaels with SNL of, every Saturday we go on at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever time it is, whether we're ready for it or not. And, they were kind of saying, like, some people would say that's great because they've been consistent and that's what people know them for. And the consistency was more important than being the absolute best, absolute ready. And others were like, maybe that kind of hurt them because some weeks are better than others. And sure, maybe they shouldn't have gone on that week. But it was like, no matter what, no matter where we are, 11 o'clock, that's the deadline. And then I saw that. And then like a few hours later, I saw your profile. And it just kind of got me thinking, because I feel like as marketers, there's always this push-pull of quantity or quality versus quantity and quality versus speed. And this idea of, is it good enough, or like perfect is the enemy of, or
right,
great is the enemy of good, and all that stuff. And I'm just curious, this is kind of how we'll go from philosophy to content, but how you balance this idea of, yes, there's always incremental, and this idea of we can keep showing up and putting the effort in to be better than we were the day before. But at what point do we maybe hurt ourselves in a business context that we need to be able to get out there and not let our own...
Let's relay this to AI right now. It's really easy, if I need to spin up a piece of content, to go to ChatGPT and say, write me a 1,500 word blog post using this as the title, and let it run. You're going to get that in about 30 seconds, if not quicker. You could post that and it'll be quote unquote good enough, but is it really going to move the needle? Is it going to make an impact? Or if you are going to go with AI assisted content, take the time to build out a prompt, add in specifics. How do you want this page to be laid out? Do you want sections with FAQs or listicles? Do you want to have it reference sources? Do you want to have it be written in first or third person? Try to control the narrative as much as you can. Control what you can control. And then when you post it, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable and have a little bit more pride in what you were able to do, rather than, I don't know, skirting a corner and using a one sentence prompt as opposed to a 3-page prompt that you have worked and researched and tested on to get this piece of content that is going to make a difference. I know it might be a little taboo to talk about using AI for content, but it's the world we're living in. And as far as like other marketing efforts go, like, every month we try to allot a certain amount of time for all our clients. And I give the team as much autonomy as they need. They're all experts. They're all adults. They have that freedom to make the best choice. Like, of course, we have standard operating procedure, but if, every decision they have to make needs to be data informed, they need to be able to defend it. And if you're just going through the motions or doing things to check a box, then I would say that you're not taking a lot of pride in your job. You're not going to be able at the end of the day to say, hey, like, I'm proud of what I did.
Deadlines looming and you're juggling a million projects? Maybe you've tried outsourcing to an agency before, but how can you be sure that they're going to deliver on your specific goals, on time, and on budget? Well, look no further than Clutch, the #1 leading marketplace for B2B service providers. Clutch streamlines your search, helping you kick off projects faster so you can focus on what you do best. On Clutch, you can select from over 2,000 unique services and specialties to quickly narrow in on a comprehensive list of the agencies best for your project. Then filter down to a short list of qualified providers through filters, or use Clutch's project brief technology to match you to the best fits. From there, just compare the providers by reading in-depth verified client reviews to learn more about the work that these agencies have done for businesses like yours, so you can make a confident hiring decision. Get matched to the best agencies for your business and request quotes at clutch.co/content matters. You'll be one step closer to having those projects off your never-ending to-do list, so you can shift focus back to the big picture. That's clutch.co/content matters. So you talked about maybe it's taboo to talk about AI when it comes to content. It's not. I mean, it is where we are. I think if anyone says, oh, don't use AI, you're not paying attention to what's going on. And you're probably
behind
leaving,
at this point.
Yeah, you're leaving something on the table. AI can be very helpful. AI can help make it better than what a human can write.
Right.
I'm curious how you are thinking about AI in your content production, and the inevitable follow-up question will be, how does that impacting SEO? Sure. But I know that in itself is larger, so we can hold on that. But for now, where do you see the most success in working AI into a content workflow?
Yeah, there's a lot happening with that. So our content production has moved from all human production to we went the prompt route. We developed SEO best practice style prompts, anywhere. I think we're up to like 333 different options and titles of very in-depth type prompts to help create this content. And the one thing that we notice is, like, you could feed an AI the same prompt 4 times, you're going to get 4 potentially radically different pieces of content depending on what those inputs within the prompt are. And now we've moved to the point, and it all gets human reviewed, by the way. I think that's the most important part, is like whatever the AI spits out, I wouldn't take it at face value quite yet. I would always make sure that, or we would always make sure that our content team kind of goes over it with a fine-tooth comb, make sure it matches brand voice, whatever. Now we've gotten to a point where we've utilized a couple of different tools to automate that workflow. So when a blog strategy comes in, you look at the title, you're able to pull, okay, what's the target location? What is the target keyword? Which prompt does it match up with? And then go. And then so we've refined the process a little bit. I think the net benefit of this is obviously scalability and efficiency. And it makes it easy to change things on the fly. It makes it easy to produce content at scale. And don't hear that as use AI to produce 100 pieces of content a day for a website. Use it wisely. There was a second part of your question.
Yes. So the second part, just AI's impact on how people are searching. What's your take on it so far?
I think what's really interesting and what we're starting to see right now is these LLMs, Google's AI Overview, Google's AI Mode, they want unique expert insights. And I think that is the key differentiator between folks that are using AI to produce broad content. The other thing that we're starting to see is, and that I don't want this to sound alarming, but a lot of these LLMs tend to value brand authority, brand power. But as for smaller businesses, individual agents, or smaller brokerages, you can stand out from these big brands by truly becoming an expert and honing in on what is your niche, what is your area of expertise. So if you're a real estate agent, you can't try to cover every topic under the sun in general real estate. But if you're a real estate agent in Beverly Hills, more often than not, all your content should revolve around luxury properties, luxury homes, luxury lifestyle, tax information, and really drill down into the individual layers, what that means, what your personal experience is. And that is going to separate you from the pack. It's ever evolving. I think my answer to this would have been a little bit different had we had this conversation even like 6 months ago.
Yeah, even 6 weeks ago. I feel like people were still in a different spot.
And in the journey of my career, like circling all the way back to being an entry-level link builder, like you could easily manipulate Google search. I think these LLMs are a lot less manipulatable manipulable. It's a lot harder to trick an AI than it was Google's crawlers. I could go and build 1,000 links overnight with one anchor text, and immediately I'm ranking number one. I didn't need any content on my website. Now I can't build 1,000 links overnight because I'm going to get the site de-indexed. But if I don't have any supporting content that supports what I'm promoting on my homepage as being an expert in, or I have transactional or money pages that are geared to convert leads that are, I'm using real estate because that's what I know. I've known for the last 3 years. But if I'm trying to get people to come to my page that is Blowing Rock Homes for Sale, and I have no supporting content about what I know about Blowing Rock, what it's like to live there, what the housing market looks like, then I'm not going to see any traction for the pages that are going to help me convert leads. We can just keep going on this. What we're starting to see even more is with the rollout of, and I'm going to use AI overviews because it's a lot easier to track right now that the data is in Google Search Console, it's called the great decoupling, is you're seeing impression share rise and clicks to your website decline. And this is because as users, they're typing in their, for mostly informational intent searches. So think of like, what are things to do? Questions where you're not looking to buy anything, no commercial intent or transactional intent. And so your website or your blog post may be linked to in the AI overviews, but I know when I search for something informational, I'm not always clicking through to read that full article because I'm getting the Reader's Digest in the AI overview. Now, here's the good and the bad. Here's where we can take some action out of here, is those pages that are being used for AI overview. If you have lead generation pages on your website, you know that these pages that are ranking in AI overviews, you can then start leveraging that authority from AI overviews and start passing on that authority via internal links and semantically related keywords and search phrases to your pages that are going to be transactional intent for when those searches happen. The AI overviews and AI mode for the real estate industry are, I think, going to be a lot less detrimental to real estate agents, because until Google decides to buy a Zillow or pay into every single MLS, they can't give you listings, right? You can't purchase a home through Google. They're still going to need to go to your website. And so you need to be able to have all of your authority pointing to these transactional pages. So when somebody does want to buy a home, you're showing up. But you can support that transactional page by having quality content that is unique, powerful from your own perspective, and showcases your local area expertise. I think that's what it comes down to, is you got to showcase that you're the expert.
It's so interesting because as we're trying to dive in how to better give clients information on how they're showing up in prompts and what are the prompts, it's way more unique search terms than what it was in Google, because it's not only how someone chooses to word potentially a very lengthy prompt, but also everything that it's learned about them up to date, and that can even impact what they see. And so I think it does we haven't figured this out yet, but if you have a personality that chat is recognizing, and then you as a real estate agent write a blog post that maybe has the exact same information, educational information, as the 12 other realtors in the area, but your own personality is in there and that better matches what chat knows about the pattern thus far of how this person prompts, you might get pulled in. And that type of thing was never considered with Google.
Right.
Before, it was just whether Google views you as authoritative or not, regardless of style. And that is by no means scientific. So don't take that as fact.
You bring up a really good point, though, about LLMs and personalized search. Right. I know I've mostly focused on Google throughout this chat, but I mean, ChatGPT has larger market share than it did a week ago, and I think it's only going to continue to grow. But you hit the nail on the head. The being able to identify the prompts that are being used, the visibility tools that are out there are cost prohibitive for Joe business owner. There's nothing on the market right now that makes a lot of sense. And you could run the same prompt 100 times a day, and you're going to see different answers. And so it takes an entirely different data set to understand, I think, how LLMs are viewing a business or viewing a website because some of it's personalization, because some of it is, I mean, based on the user, but certainly based on how ChatGPT is acquiring its information. You said something else about, is it up to date? That's something else that is routinely brought up in different case studies is LLMs seem to reward fresh content and refresh content. So if you want to be topically relevant for, I don't know, seasonality, you should be writing about what's happening this weekend, or like 4th of July that's coming out in a couple of weeks here. Write about where's the best places to go see fireworks. Well, you're likely not going to create a lead out of there, but you're going to establish trust with the user. You're going to show these LLMs that you are intimately familiar with the area, that you could be an expert in the area.
Well, and that also just depends on which LLM you're using, right? Because and the model of it. Because I know, like in some cases, ChatGPT is pulling from its latest state of the internet, which is like mid 2024. But some of ChatGPT, depending on kind of which model you're on, is live, and same thing for like Perplexity or Claude. So then you also have to keep that in mind of when you're pulling information and where you may show up more of.
It's tricky, right? I wish I could sit here and say one way or the other, or put out a definitive statement, but it's so fluid right now. It's ever changing. It's an exciting time. Like as a marketer, it's really exciting because I relate it to when Google's Penguin and Panda algorithm updates came out. There were a lot of SEOs that made a lot of money gaming the system. These algorithm penalties came out and they wash their hands. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. And I think you're going to see that a lot with marketers now that these LLMs are out. You can either adjust and learn and capitalize on this new version of search, or you'd be like, I'm just going to switch gears altogether. I'm going to go buy 30 acres of land and start farming.
I would stand on this opinion is I think you're going to have the immediate people who, it may not be the marketer that pulls the strategy, but the CEO or the leadership team that doesn't have the stomach for it and is going to say SEO is dead and stop producing content. And I think we have a solid 12 to 18 months before this all really kicks in, that if you stay steady on your strategy, if not even double down, there's going to be market share to gain.
Yep. That
while I do believe organic traffic and impressions are going to go down and AI overviews and the zero-click search and all that, it is changing it. But I do think that there's room to grow actually in this channel because so many people are going to pull out. And if you stay steady while preparing for the future, like don't just do your classic tried and true SEO, keep experimenting, learning AI search, staying up to date on it, making sure your content is just getting better and better, then you're going to be at this perfect inflection point for when it flips in like 12 to 18 months. But because so many people are going to go start farming, there is still opportunity right now for folks.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're 100% right. I think to give encouragement to anybody that's listening, if you've been following best practices and not trying to game the system, and you've been producing quality content, you've been promoting yourself on social media, you're creating partnerships with other local businesses where you're getting mentioned on other websites, you're in great shape. I'm a firm believer. If you doom scroll through LinkedIn, you're going to find, like you said, all these posts of, oh, SEO is dead. Oh, content marketing is falling by the wayside. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think if you have had a quality strategy in place, you are set up extremely well for the future. And like you said, if you're thinking about doubling down, now is the time to build up that content backlog, to even venture out. And I think the future of search and as LLMs get more and more advanced is multimodal content. Start thinking about how can I take my blog post and have a video around it, chop that up into reels, chop it up into YouTube shorts, and then you start creating links on all these different assets and funnels. Participate in a Reddit community. There's multiple studies out there that say, ChatGPT pulls something. I saw something crazy, like 40% of what it recommends or links to is coming from Reddit. Like there's a huge opportunity for you to get involved in your niche's subreddit, your industry subreddit, and participate. I'd even say go so far as creating your business's own subreddit, have a admin account. And if if people are searching for you, your Reddit community is going to show up. People can interact directly with you. And then you have a user account that then goes out and interacts in these other subreddits that are related to your community. Don't do it in a commercial way. Like, follow the rules of Reddit, be positive, promote good things. But you're going to start seeing that pay off the more and more you invest in different funnels rather than relying on traditional search.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great place to end the conversation too, is just this idea of like, it's not doom and gloom. And you can't game the system. Like, I think if anything, what I've learned is everyone's always out there saying like, well, just do the link building or just put more keywords in, like just get the keyword density up high enough. And to your point, every single algorithm update, every time there's been a significant shift in SEO, it's just made it harder to do SEO well. And I think this is just maybe one of the biggest jumps we've had in a long time. Sure. It's like, there is no gaming the system anymore. Your content just actually has to be good. You do have to have a point of view. You have to either find a really good partner or you need to take the, internal resources to do this. And there is reward and return on the other side of that, but you can't just game with 1,000 links overnight.
Exactly. One term we throw around often that I've been a big fan of is like, you have to match user intent. Satisfy is not just about keywords. It's about answering questions, how to go about understanding those questions. The keywords will give you clues, but there's all sorts of other metrics that you can look at as far as engagement on once they get to your website. If you're trying to boil it all down to something, it's you have to establish yourself as an authority. You have to match user search intent and understand what's your unique value proposition amongst this constant barrage of noise that's on the internet. What separates you from the competition?
Thanks for listening to this episode of Content Matters, created in partnership with Share Your Genius. If you like the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Otherwise, you can find all the resources you need to stay connected with us in the show notes. Till next time.